Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Full Circle with Joyce. Right now, we want to talk about addiction and recovery. And with me here on the show, I have Bernard Mwangi, who's actually a recovering addict and the director of treatment and programs manager at Recovery Options. Yes. Is it manager or director?
I'm a director, but I manage the treatment side.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Manages the recovery option, manager rather at Recovery Options as well. Okay. Karibu sana to the show.
Asante.
Maybe very quickly you can tell us a bit about Recovery Options.
Recovery Options has been there since 2011. We mainly cater to men, inpatient and outpatient. Mm-hmm. And we do both, not only mental health, but also addictions. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. And this is actually very personal to you. You actually have your own story of recovery.
Yes.
Yeah. You still call yourself a recovering addict.
Recovering addict till the day I die. Mm-hmm. Because I was an addict for over 9 years. Mm-hmm. Prescription medication, drugs, alcohol, anything just to get high.
How did you get onto that?
The first drink I took, I was 5 years old.
Wow.
My grandfather owned a pub in Outer Ring Shopping Centre. That was his retirement project from the time he came out of Parliament. So every Sunday after church, we'd go there and the men would meet and the ladies would also meet. The ladies are meeting in the kitchen or somewhere around there. It was still a chauvinistic society. And the men would meet on this other side. So I decided, let me copy the men. This is what they're drinking.
Wow.
So
after church, bar. And that's where you got
He lived
exposed.
on top of the bar was downstairs. So the alcohol used to, because we were the small ones.
Right.
Kimbio kalete.
Okay.
So ran downstairs, So one day I decided, let me try. And that Monday was a very hard Monday for me to go to school.
Mm. Mm. You were high?
Hangover. Imagine a 5-year-old with a hangover.
What did you take? Do you remember?
It was something very, very, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Something that was mixed up.
Did you tell your parents? Did they find out?
My dad was actually seated next to me.
As you were taking it?
I just, amekunywa.
Yeah.
Then
He didn't chapa you or anything?
The hangover was enough.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
So now you have the genetic factor whereby everybody in the family drinks.
Right.
I've learnt it from them. So by the time I was getting into high school, I'm already smoking weed, smoking cigarettes, chewing mirror, drinking alcohol regularly.
So from that 5-year-old experience, you then had multiple other occasions,
Yes.
or was the hangover enough for you to be like, yo, this thing is crazy, I don't even want it?
Now even the access got cut off a bit.
Okay.
Because I was a bit too adventurous. Mm-hmm. But getting on later on, standard 6, 7, when I have a bit more freedom,
Yeah.
I started now looking for these things on my own.
So would you say you were addicted as a child?
No. But the addictive gene was there. For what you do as a parent, by the time you're procreating, you're passing on the gene to your children. Mm-hmm. So if you were drinking or you loved nyama choma at a particular time and you conceived at that particular time and you gave birth, so your child has got a 50-50 chance of being an addict or an alcoholic or loving nyama choma, not loving nyama choma. So,
Right. Wow. So by the time you're in high school, you're literally dabbling in everything.
Everything. Drinking ethanol in the lab, getting kicked out of school, everything.
My goodness. Wow. Quite a journey. Interesting thing is, unfortunately, your wife isn't here with us, but she also had her own experience too.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about hers.
She lived in the village, Thika, somewhere near Thika. And her first introduction to Nairobi was also the introduction to freedom, lots of freedom. And one or the other, she got hooked up with this guy, his Nigerian boyfriend, who introduced her to heroin.
Oh, no.
So she was on heroin for about 5 years, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
And in the midst of that, I'd already come off my side. I'd already gone to rehab, come out. I was working in an organization that was dealing with heroin addicts,
Okay.
vis-a-vis HIV/AIDS.
Okay.
And Met her on the streets. She was one of my fellow caseworkers were working with her.
Okay.
And could see her once in a while disappear, come back, disappear, come back, disappear, come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So you struck up a friendship, I guess.
Very kutoka mbali.
Okay. Well, I'm assuming eventually you're the one who proposed, so something happened.
Badal kameiva. So what happened basically, then a few years later on, there was World Drugs Day. So they used to do these very, very big events at Uhuru Park. And we meet there, unfortunately, at the smoking corner.
On World Drugs Day, when you're supposed to be fighting against the use of drugs, and you guys are in a corner.
Smoking.
Oh, Lord.
And yeah, we had quit the other drugs.
Okay.
At that particular time, we were thinking cigarettes are not drugs.
Not that bad.
Are not that bad. And we start a deeper relationship. I tried to get a date 7 times.
Wow.
Boss. Manaume, let's strive.
Was she clean at that point?
She was clean. She had just come from rehab. She had been clean for more than a year.
Okay.
A year, 6 months or so.
Okay.
And she had started working in another treatment center.
Okay.
I was still working at that particular place. We moved through different organizations. She ended up working in Embu. I was working in Ngong at that particular. After a short while, I worked in Ngong, and one of the things that came to us is we started having issues with our lives are empty, and we started having what you'd call an existential crisis. So we're wondering, okay, we're working in treatment facilities, but what makes treatment wholesome?
Right.
What is this?
Right.
What is this? So at that particular time, I was prescribing to a different faith.
Okay.
A faith whereby if you die today, you're buried today. And so that to lessen the burden on my parents. If anything were to happen to me when I was on the streets.
Wow, that was the reason.
That was the reason. Wasisumbuliwe.
Wow.
Mwanaume alikufa, alichapwa mob.
Wow.
Alisortiwa siku hiyo hiyo.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got together, and one of our dreams, but hers was more vocal. Ladies, you have got more words than us.
we
was,
sure do.
okay, we need to do this. We need to do treatment in a different way.
Okay.
We need to do treatment in a different way, and we need also to get God involved. So in our various searches for God, we were able to also quit smoking along the way. We got together now officially. Okay. And now 1 year later, we were able to open a treatment facility.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what makes your, because you now brought up God, so I guess I can assume then that you use faith as part of your recovery option.
It is.
It is. Explain that to us, because I think a lot of people, and maybe you can even touch a bit on your experience, because when you first went to rehab, like, was that it for you? Because we always hear a lot of recurring cases. So someone like checks into rehab, they'll do well for a month, you know, or 2 months, even a year. But at some point something happens and they kind of slip back.
All I can say, recovery is a journey. And it's a journey run by different people. As Paul says, you have a race that everybody runs, but everybody runs their own race. So everybody has got their own challenges that they need to overcome. And the only entity that has that power to get you through that particular path, or to get you on that path, is God himself. Right. So if you do not have a relationship with what most of the programs call the higher power, if you do not have a relationship with him, you will not overcome a simple thing like a resentment.
Yeah.
Because most of us, we used to drink and use drugs because we're resentful. And it is said that a resentment is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die.
Right, right.
Imagine something as simple as forgiveness. If we're not able to forgive, who will give you that power to forgive? It is only God. Yeah. So amongst many other spiritual attributes that only God can help us along with.
Right.
Yes.
That's fantastic. And so that's really built into your program.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
And there's something really, I think, very humbling even about this conversation, because when I look at you today, I'd never imagine that that was your life, or that was, what you went through, or to even say nikasuti wife alichagua ile mzuri kabisa
ile ndio inakaa mzuri
usitaibishe.
Choma picha.
No, but I mean, even the fact that your wife was on heroin for 5 years, I
Yes.
mean, that's really intense, because and I can't imagine what that's like, because it's a very destructive drug, isn't it?
For her, she had to do treatment 3 times.
Okay.
For me, it was 1 time, but I struggled with much more things later on. For her, her family was very, very supportive. Mine was very supportive, but absent due to very many things in between.
Yeah.
So I had to struggle with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Later on, yes, I was clean, but my lifestyle was not that clean.
Right.
So it's a continuous journey of continuously renewing yourself.
And that's a fantastic point you've made, because I think that's where a lot of people sort of get entrapped, that their lifestyle, so they may not necessarily be indulging in the drugs, but their lifestyle.
You're not drunk, but you're acting like you're drunk.
Which you're acting like you're drunk, and your lifestyle can just slowly encourage you towards that behavior. Even if I am so firm in my principles, if I put myself in an environment or a situation where that is happening, eventually I'm going to get influenced.
For example, one of the biggest contributors to addiction is loneliness. And if you have not decided that the place that you used to go and look for romantic liaisons or anything, if you're not going to go to a church and look for people who are in the church, which is the easiest place to pick up people, that's a pub, whereby the lowest common denominator runs the day. So if you're in a pub, what happens in a pub? People drink, and you look out of place. So 2 or 3 visits down the line, you'll be drinking.
Yeah.
You'll be drinking. You'll actually start off where you left off. Yes.
Wow. I want us to take a break, and then I want us to come back and spend just a few more minutes with him, because I really want us to focus in on your treatment center, and some of the things, the initiatives that you're doing as far as reaching out to addicted individuals, and more so even the families. I think there's a very strong message from your story of the consequences of sort of generational addiction, but also parenting, and how you have to be so deliberate about what your child even sees.
Yes.
Just that it's not, you don't make it something glamorous that they aspire to ever try. All right, so I want us to have that conversation when we get back from the break. 22999 is the SMS line. You can also comment on Facebook at Switch TV Kenya, and we'll be back after this. Hey guys, welcome back to Full Circle with Joyce. Thank you again for your company. Always a pleasure to have you joining us on the show. And I'm here with my guest. His name is Bernard Mwangi. He's a recovering addict and director of treatment and programs at Recovery Options. And karibu tena to the show. Recovery Options is a non-profit organization that actually is run by Bernard and his wife, who are both recovering addicts, and have found it their calling to actually reach out to other addicted persons and families, and that's what they've been doing. And we've just been talking about his experience with drugs and alcohol. First, partaking alcohol at 5 years old. I mean, that thing has still just blown my mind. And the fact that you said your dad was there.
My grandfather, my uncles, it was everybody smoking, drinking. So this is the first picture of what men are.
Yeah. And that's so, and that is so sad in a way. It's still sad in a way that that was your first picture of what manhood really is all about. And so even when we look at society today and the different vices that people are struggling with, maybe this is an important point for us to actually really consider parenting and the roles that parents really play in the lives of their children. I'm going to be diving into that discussion with you here in just a moment. But for now, let me just touch on an SMS here. Someone says, "Hey, I'm enjoying the show. Is it true that alcohol relieves stress, as people say? Because I know after drinking, kesho stress ni ile ile." What? these drug things.
Ostrich effect, whereby the ostrich in the game park, when the lion is running after it, it puts the head in the sand and it forgets the rest of the body is out there. So the problem happens, eats it up. When it removes the head from the sand, the lion either has feasted on the rest of the body or has left some damage. So what happens, it cheats you for a particular amount of time, like just for the night. Hakuna shida, there is no problem.
Wow.
Just for a moment.
Wow. Hey, that's definitely something. Alcohol does not relieve any stress whatsoever to the person asking that question there. Indeed, you wake up from the hangover, you wake up, you get down from the high, and the problem is still there. You still have to deal with it. So for those of you who've been looking at it as a solution, it actually isn't a solution. All right, so you can send in your feedback and comments to 22999 as we continue with this discussion here. And one of the things that I'd want for us to touch on specifically is the treatment center. And if you know someone who is struggling with this, it's a disease, really. If you know someone who's struggling with this disease, I really certainly hope that you're paying attention and are able to get them the assistance that is required. The other thing we'd like to mention to you and to at least highlight is that we're actually marking Suicide Month. Is it Suicide Month? Suicide Prevention Month. And of course, addiction, we've talked a bit about loneliness and some of the different vices that brings. You find that there's a massive correlation between alcohol, drug abuse, and suicide. Yes. So talk to us about that.
Alcohol is a depressant. Alcohol will get you lower than you are at that particular moment. And if you are drinking because you're stressed out, you're feeling lonely, you want to fill in the time, you will get really, really, really depressed. Yeah. And some of the flashing thoughts that may cross your mind would be, ni wakati nihame planet. It is time for me to leave. And it would be very easy for you to make a decision at that particular point to commit suicide. Other factors would be that the amount of damage you have done to your family. You're now alone because now you've ostracized everybody who's around you.
You're broke because that's an expensive addiction.
Kusota ni noma. You're now, if you're drinking Chivas Regal, you're now drinking plastic things for 50 shillings. You're sharing with somebody a bottle.
You said at one point you were taking ethanol.
Ethanol from chemistry labs in high school.
Wow.
You find yourself, the people that you're hanging around with, if you're hanging with the creme de la creme of society, now you're sitting with the dregs of society. First thing that gets really, really gone is your spiritual life. It dies nakufa kabisa. And you're wondering, God, where are you? The connection is not there because you killed your spiritual life. So it is very easy for a person to get into the trap. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk then about the role of families. Are there sort of any signs that parents, siblings should be looking out for? Maybe if someone in their household is struggling with something, because it's the truth is it's always very secretive, I think, in the beginning, if that's true, or you can correct me. But I think for a lot of people, it starts off as a very secretive thing. Right? Are there any sort of signs or things that parents and siblings or whoever you're living with in your household should be looking out for to sort of point and say, hey, okay, things are kind of going south here. Have you been indulging in something that you shouldn't be?
First of all, I want to thank God for now families being home.
Yeah.
During this period, COVID-19 period, we think it's a curse, but I think it's also partially a blessing, whereby the families are now home. We can now see the problems as they are. What used to be hidden at work or hidden because people are in school, now we can see. And amongst the first things, for boys, it's mainly a macho thing to use drugs and alcohol. Yes, it's secretive, but it's macho. Kata kujionyesha. For ladies, you ladies are very, very secretive. So it is very easy to find out the signs and symptoms in boys and in ladies.
Right.
One of the first things is the change of moods. Very many drastic change of moods, change of hygiene, change of friends. And you're not talking about the good change of friends. It's from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
Kalikuwa ameokoka, sasa ameanza kutembea na wale vijana wa pombe bangi. The excess use of money. And now there is now the use of money. If we're talking about children, they now want a lot of money, a lot of money, a lot of money. And you're not seeing where the money is getting translated to. In fact, you're now starting to see their personal belongings disappear.
Yeah.
My wife usually says, I used to steal from myself.
Wow.
Because she sold all her household items. One by one, by one, by one, to feed her addiction.
Wow.
By the time I was checking into rehab, I only have, what did I have? I had one pair of jeans, one pair of shoes, 3 sweaters, and 1 t-shirt.
That was all your life belongings?
Between me and that.
My goodness.
So you find that this person starts letting go of responsibilities. This person was able to wake up at 6. They're now oversleeping. Mchana imekuwa usiku, usiku imekuwa mchana.
Those are all signs.
Those are all signs.
Okay, one should certainly be aware. My goodness. Okay, I have some SMSs that have come in, and someone here is saying, hey, thanks for the show. I'm called Comfort. Actually, alcohol just adds stress in a way that when you get high, I guess there's a high, and then you start thinking a lot, and then everything starts running in your minds. I guess that's what they're saying. Okay. Someone here is saying, I use drugs, for example, bang, because I feel like it relieves me, especially when I'm anxious and depressed. I'm so broken that it's hard to stay sober. I have been hurt, broken, and rejected, and they're just 19 years old. First of all, thank you so much for your courage in sharing your SMS with me this morning. What would you say to this person?
Sorry. I'll ask him if he's feeling very depressed and down. It is best to seek professional help rather than self-medicating. Marijuana will only help him for a very short while, very short while, if it will indeed help him. It will bring him into many more problems. He has to look for help. He is courageous enough to send a tweet, or is it a text?
A text.
He can reach out anonymously to lots of people who can give him help.
Right.
If he's able to pay for his NHIF card, he can visit a few medical facilities which can facilitate that for him, including Mathare Hospital, if he does not want to. And there's also the helplines. Even the Red Cross has a very good helpline to help him with that. It is actually free.
And you're 19, so you have your whole life ahead of you. And as I keep saying, your actions will always have consequences, and that will determine the circumstances of your life.
Actually, the worst consequence is the human brain matures by the time you're 21. So you can imagine the amount of damage he's doing to his brain right now.
And give yourself a chance. If
he's already in trouble, then he's adding more trouble. Yes.
Give yourself that chance. Please do seek out for help. And thank you again for sharing your SMS. Sharon watching from Kisii, asante sana as well. Someone here says, Mr. Bernard Mwangi is so inspiring. I also once in my life got surrounded by friends who were using hard drugs because I thought they looked cool at the time. Thank God I never smoked or drank. And that's Evans Abogi from Eldoret. Thank you for sharing that feedback with us as well. Someone here says, good morning once again. Please ask our guest, apart from drug addictions, do they also deal with other type of addictions as well? Some of us are not in drugs, but are really addicted to awkward things.
You find that drug addictions usually go very hand in hand with a few things like gambling, porn, porn, sex, so food addictions. Those we can handle. But if it starts getting to some other parts, we'll refer you to a very good person who can help them.
Before we wrap up, there's 2 questions that I really want to ask you. The first one is, when you look back at your life and sort of the journey that you've had to take now to get to this point, and I mean, kudos to you, because you've taken the mess and created something out of it that is not just changing your life, but other people's as well. But is there a part of you that sort of looks back, at your parents, at your family, and kind of just wonder what they were thinking. Have you ever had that sort of conversation with them? Did you ever question how they raised you?
I really questioned them severally. But what came out was they didn't know that it was going to become trouble later on. They didn't know what was happening between them would affect me in one way or the other and push me towards addiction deeper and deeper. I didn't know quite a lot of things. But the most preventable thing that if they had the knowledge, would have been to keep me very far away from drugs and alcohol, and to keep it instilling in me, ukitumia hiyo kitu utatupa mbao. You continue using this, you're going to lose your life. Because I lost 9 years of my life. I would have passed very well in high school. I still got a B-.
Well
and a squeezer. Those days when you do 12 subjects. But it's still...
And that's a massive lesson for every parent, that it's not just about what you say. It's about how you live your own life, because your kids are watching. And so to be very deliberate about creating safe spaces for them, and hopefully just being like a true example, not to preach water, because even if they're telling you to stay far, but you can see they're drinking wine.
Some other time.
Absolutely.
Actually, the biggest task I think parents need to have is to also to be very informed about what is happening now, what is happening or what may happen in the next stages of their children's lives. They have to be very friendly with them, but still remain the parent.
Absolutely.
That's a very tight rope to walk.
My final question to you as we get ready to wrap up is, obviously your wife was also an addict of a very strong drug. Was there any concern about you two coming together? I mean, now, praise God, you're running this recovery center together. But in many ways, I mean, when one has been a heroin addict and one has been into all sorts of things, that's also risky, isn't it? Is it something you would recommend to other people?
No. It's jaribu. But anyway, everything is possible with the power of God. With some friends, because we also had mutual friends, kuja nasema ni nini mnajaribu hii stories, mnajua kuna vile it can, and we're wondering, okay, what are these guys, what's wrong with them? But also some relationships around us of people who were in recovery also crumbled, came about, and the mess was horrific. It was very scary for us. So we decided to become each other's keeper, encourage and push each other to become better. So if I see that she's having symptoms of something happening, I challenge her. If she sees something is happening with me, she challenges me. If she's not getting through to me, she'll find my friend and tell her, hey, mse wako kuna vile.
So it's a journey.
It's a journey. It's not easy. It's a journey.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming today and just shedding light on this. I think there's so much that we take for granted, and how many times we think, you know, our decisions are just ours, but really the repercussions on the people around us stretch for generations. Absolutely. How can people find the Recovery Center and reach out to you? Or Recovery Options, I'm sorry.
Yes, it actually is both.
Okay.
You can find us on Facebook, Recovery Options, or you can call 0711 100 384.
0711 100 384.
0724 427 675. Or you can find us on Twitter and Instagram as Recovery Options.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's been great meeting you and talking to you. And all the best to you. Salimia your wife. In fact, tumia salamu vile amekataa kukuja. Here, right here.
Unatafutwa.
This camera here.
Unatafutwa.
It's okay. She felt shy. It's okay. We understand. Thank you so much once again for coming.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to take a break now as we get ready for our next segment. And we're going to be switching gears a little bit and looking at Global Week for Action on Non-Communicable Diseases. That's coming up next. Remember, also, we have our World in Pictures coming up for you, and we'll be looking at the top 10 beaches in the world. I hope you guys are hoping with me that Kenya is is listed somewhere in that list, okay? So 22999 is the SMS line. We'll be back after this.